Okay, so now we're on question 8, and this says T&J Corporation makes 2 models of its hairdryer at a facility in Nampa. The copper winding machine has been a constraint in the factory in the past. The capacity of the machine is 9,600 minutes per month, so let's highlight that. Data concerning these 2 products appear below, so we have some data that we're going to want to look into later. And it says the first question is we want to determine if the copper winding machine is currently a constraint. So the very first step that we would want to do is we would want to determine how many minutes it's going to take for each of these product lines. So what we would do is we would look at our monthly demand first. So our monthly demand for the standard is 12,000, and then our monthly demand for the premium is 8,000. Then we have a total column, but we're just going to use that for the total minutes when we add them together. So now we want to determine the copper winding machine time per unit, which is also given to us. So for the standard, it's 0.5 minutes, and then for the premium, it's 0.6. So then what we would do, so I'm going to label this as copper winding time to satisfy demand. What we would do is we'd actually multiply those numbers together to get, I'm going to get 6,000 here, 6,000 minutes, because I'm multiplying how much time is needed for each dryer. So these two together, that's how much time I'm going to need to make all of these. Then this next one would be 4,800 minutes. So together, that's 12,000, or so, ooh, goodness, 10,800 minutes. Okay, so if we look at our question here, it shows that we only have 9,600 minutes per month. So the copper winding machine is currently a constraint because we don't have enough time in order to produce everything. So our next question is to determine the contribution margin per unit. That's right here. So we've done this a few times. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our unit selling price, abbreviate that as SP, and then our variable cost per unit. And we know that selling price minus our variable costs equals contribution margin per unit. Or contribution margin, but we can put it down to the unit basis. So standard, premium, and these are all numbers, these are going to be numbers that I'm filling in. So 14 and 5, and 20 and 8. So standard is 14, variable cost for that is 5, and then 20 and 8. So our contribution margin per unit is going to be $9 and $12. So that looks pretty good, right? We can kind of see something that we feel like might be a better product, but we don't know for sure because we're actually going to need to determine, based on the winding time per unit, which one actually is better. So we're just going to carry those numbers up from the top down here. So we want the copper winding time per unit. So that's going to be 0.5 and then 0.6. And we're going to divide these numbers. We're going to divide 9 by 0.5 because that will tell us our contribution margin per minute. So if we divide those two numbers, I get $18 per minute. And then if I divide these, I get $20 per minute. So which one is the best one? Which one do we want to produce first? We want to produce the one with the higher contribution margin per minute. So that would be my premium hairdryer. Okay, so now what we want to do is determine how much of each hairdryer that we would want to make, determining the because of the copper winding time being the constraint. So I did this pretty poorly on our solution, so I'm really sorry about that. So let's try and do this a little bit neater. So our first constraint is the 9,600, or our only constraint is the 9,600 minutes available, right? So what we want to do is we want to produce this premium hairdryer first, right? So we'd want to take 9,600 minus 48 because we want to produce all of those, right? So if we take that if we subtract those two, what we get as a remainder is actually 4,800. Okay, so now we know that we want to use all that time to produce the rest of these. So what we would do is now so we know that we want to produce 8,000 of these. So we know right off the bat we're producing 8,000 premium hair dryers. So hair dryers, oops, sorry. So we'll produce these. Okay, so now we want to determine how many we're going to produce of the standard. So we know that the copper winding time per unit is 0.5, and we know that we have 4,800 minutes left. So what we would do is we would take the 4,800 minutes that are left and actually divide it by 0.5 per unit. And when we do that, we get 9,600 units that we'd be able to produce. So we can produce 8,000 premium and we can produce 9,600 standard. Hopefully that makes sense. We're going to move on to the next problem.